once again, I'm at Death Star Studio, you know what I mean? They was kind enough to let me put my S.T.M.B, banner up, you know what I mean? We got Gamo in here, the person who allowed it all to happen, and today we got a different person that I've never met before. Please introduce yourself to the camera. Who are you, sir?
This is the one and only Dr. Edward Love from Chalice Roll.
What exactly do you do?
What don't I do is a better question. But what I currently do is produce music, produce products, like a real producer should, real art chips. So I make art.
So, what type of projects are you working on currently at the moment?
Currently, I'm working on some things for Chalice Row, some rhythm releases with some artists from Jamaica and some artists from America. I'm working on a couple of my own projects right now as well.
So, are you a vocalist? Are you a producer? What?
No longer a vocalist. No, I'm currently just a producer, and I'm a road engineer, studio engineer, do all kinds of that kind of work.
How long have you been doing this?
This is my 20th year in music, getting paid.
I said that again, getting paid. I like that.
Getting paid for 20 years of music. It's technically my 26th year in music.
There's a lot of young people that's trying to get in the business, and instead of being a doctor, lawyer, they want to get into the music industry. And I figure 20 years in the game, what type of message would you want to put out there for somebody, the future now? Not somebody that's my age, but somebody 18, 17, 16, I don't know.
Don't do it.
Enlighten us why?
No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. Some people will get the joke.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Not for the faint at heart.
No, it's
not at all.
It's definitely not. I think the world needs doctors, lawyers, engineers, scholars, artists, farmers. The world needs everything. If there's a kid out there who really feels like it's music that is his thing, I would say listen to as much music as you can when you're young. Spread it out as much as you can when you're young, because when you get older, you're not really going to want to do that. So if you're young and you get as much influence as you can to set your own foundation, to set you off on a way, that's what I would suggest.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So, in your past history, what was like a memorable moment as far as your career that you remember the most, that was something positive that you could share, make you smile when you think about it?
There's been a bunch of those. I think specifically, I used to work at a club where I did sound for like 3 years, and I used to promote a night of my own as well. I had a weekly, and then I had a couple monthlies during the course of the month that I would promote as my own nights. There was one night where I played in all 3 bands. I played keyboard in one band, played bass in another band, and I sang in another band. I was the sound guy during the shows, right, where I set sound, and then I did the show. Like, no sound guy standing there because I had set the sound, which it's not smart. I wouldn't suggest it. But I pulled it off. I was also the promoter of the show. I had put up all the flyers. Like, I did a lot that night, got like 3 or 4 paychecks, and I can remember standing on stage when I was singing, seeing everybody in the crowd enjoying themselves, everybody dancing, and I just had to like take a second to myself and like look around and remember it. But yeah, that's one that comes to mind. Another one is really recently. I just got back from a trip to Jamaica. Spent 3 months in Jamaica, where I stayed on a property. I don't know if you're familiar with an old reggae artist named Garnet Silk. In the kind of the late 80s there into the 90s, that sound went. But that was a place where the place that I stayed at was called Bonham Springs. and that was a place that Garnet Silk had lived at and recorded at, and where a lot of those '90s reggae foundation artists had recorded there as well.
All
I was
the
able
roots.
to, yeah.
Music, all the roots music.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I was able to set up my gear in a place where gear has traditionally been set up, and that's pretty much why that property existed the way that it did. And it hadn't been touched musically for a while, so I was able to go do that and really kind of feel a vibe. And that's the newest one on the list right there.
So now I just really pretty much want to ask you, if there was like an artist that maybe you haven't reached out and talked to, but they're out there, you like their style of music, you possibly admire, they can hear this message right now, as far as some networking, maybe doing some music with them, or are you pretty much just like to work to yourself? Like, if there was somebody, who would you work with?
To be honest, low-key, I've kind of worked with a lot of people that I've always kind of wanted to work with.
Yeah.
So that luster kind of wore off a little bit. I would be definitely open up to working with a lot of people. There's a lot of people's music I really respect, if our lanes cross. But I'm not really one to kind of go out of my lane at this point to do what it is that I got to do. And like I said, I've kind of low-key worked with a lot of folks that I've wanted to. So, yeah. If you want me to answer the question, I will, though. Let me think about that. There's a couple cats in the UK that I've heard of, and honestly, there's people that I've heard their music and I don't remember their name. Things I've come across YouTube or seen people at festivals that I've worked, and I can't remember their name. So there's a few people I would wish. Oh, you know what? To answer your question and give somebody some promo, there's a group out of South Africa called BCUC. They're a terrific little, very unique kind of band. It's percussion, bass, and a guitar, and they do a very, very interesting kind of show that I've never seen before I'd seen them when I went to South Africa. So BCUC.
So I see you traveled around the world. You've been a lot of places and well versed in different types of cultures. Wondering what is there a certain genre that you find yourself sticking to the most? Or
I learned how to play all the instruments playing reggae music. My first band that I was in was a gospel group. The first show I played was a punk rock show. So it's kind of I don't really.
Y'all didn't play Bad Brains.
What's that?
Y'all didn't play Bad Brains.
No, we played our own music. We played the original. I was never in a band that played covers or anything. We always made our own music. So to me, it's like when you have a group of musicians who make their own music, it's kind of hard to generalize it because you have, and especially in America, because you have so many different kinds of influences coming into the music, and especially nowadays where you have, kids who might gravitate toward reggae music, but also have like Wu-Tang and all that kind of foundation music in their kind of musical lexicon too. And so I think the more and more, like I said, the more and more kids listen to more kinds of music, I think you're going to see those genre things go away, and music is just going to be music.
So what do you prefer, hardware or software?
Well, when given the choice on the road, what to run shows with, I usually choose analog hardware as opposed to running like a digital console or something like that if I have a choice. I'm versed in both. I find there's advantages in both. So not to be too ambiguous, it kind of depends on the project. It depends on the song. It depends on what I'm trying to do. If I had full capability, I'd have everything at my disposal, just to be able to try, to be able to say what would this song sound like, or what would the sound sound like if I did a different thing with it, and not be limited to just one type of gear or one mindset toward using it.
Money or experience?
Both. Or neither. Ignorance is bliss, and babies will teach you things, So yeah, wisdom comes from children and women. You know, so it's like you when you're a man making music, you're almost limited to your own ego and your own set of satisfactions, when sometimes money can get involved in that. Experience can also get involved in straying you one way or the other. So a good balance of both and a good balance of neither, if that makes any sense.
Indie or mainstream?
I think mainstream, to be honest. Like I said, real art ships. That's a quote from Steve Jobs. So, if you're not making art for the sake of people seeing it, I don't think you're really making art.
Nope.
You know, if you're not trying to get to as many people as possible, you're not really trying to affect those people with art. You know, if you're only limiting your audience or your market, in other words, to a group that only listens to indie music, or if you're labeling yourself as only, it's really limiting the scope of people that you can touch with the art that you make. So it's kind of riding that fine line and finding out what is going to be, you know, generally appealing to the most amount of people, if that's what you're trying to do. I understand that there's people that don't want to talk to everybody. So for me personally, I'm trying to touch as many people while I'm alive as I can, you know.
Is there anywhere further in your music career that you actually like to go, or you know, you can see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, or are you just content with what you're doing now, or you know?
I mean, being content to me is like a cuss word.
Okay.
You know, like I don't really like being content with anything. I think that you're alive for a reason. You wake up for a purpose every day, and you should find it. You know, so I don't know if I'm really content. I would really like to be in a much more flexible space with music. I mean, just like anybody though, you have to go through those little that upward curve of getting to know what it is that you need to do, you know. So yeah. Well, you like this one? You like the music, bro? If you can hear, it's been like every song has pretty much been a different style of music, if not a different style of instrumentation or whatever. Yeah, I would like to be able to work in a situation that I mean, I do already. I'd like to continue working in situations that I can expand my music ability and my, like I said, my ability to be able to reach people with what it is that I do.
So where would somebody find your music at on maybe through a social network? They might want to do a collab with you, or shoot some money towards you, or even they just want to buy your music on iTunes or something.
Yeah, you can look for Dr. Edward Love on iTunes. I've got a record there with Young Shanty that hit number 8 on the Billboard Heat Seekers chart in 2017. Young Shanty's got an album that I did engineering and a little production on, called Chalice Row Dig a Hole. That's also available on iTunes. Chalice Row has a Bandcamp that has a really kind of a long stretch of recordings with me and Young Shanty. Not all my production, but all of my engineering, which is, I mean, I had an old friend tell me, you know, people don't come to listen to a band, people come listen to the sound guy.
Yep.
They come to watch the band. They don't understand that, you know, the guys are making music and you can't deny that or discount it, but at the end of the day, it's all coming through a system, and there's a guy making them sound good. And, you know, whether it's me making myself sound good or me making other people sound good, you know, that's really where I'm at.
So do you have a Twitter or Facebook handle or anything?
I've got an Instagram called Rasta Smoke Shop. I've got a Facebook called Ross Love. I'm kind of developing websites on my end before I really release them. I've got some products that I want to put out on some websites. You can watch for rastasmokeshop.com. You can watch for edwardlove.com. You can watch for ganjafoods.com. That one's coming soon too. But yeah, for right now, if you want to get in touch with me, Instagram's probably the best way. Just IG, Rasta Smoke Shop. Old school with the PPE. at the end. And Ross Love on Facebook.
I've been sitting here listening to you, and I mean, I'm encouraged, man. And I heard you speak on the billboards. I want to know more about that, man. How many songs have you had placed on placed on the billboards? And and tell me about it.
Oh, okay. I've been a part of. Well, technically, I've been a part of 3 Billboard records this last year. 2 of them had my name on them. The first one was Chalice Road Dig a Hole by Young Shanty, and that hit #1 on the reggae album charts. That was last April. And then we had put out a record just a few months later. We had a whole bunch of recordings already stocked up from a bunch of years. So we put out 2 real quick. And the second one, the Young Shanty and Dr. Edward Love record called Smoker's Music. That one hit #8 on the Billboard Heat Seekers chart. They didn't consider it a reggae record, which is the first time I've really even talked about that. But yeah, they didn't consider it a reggae record, and so they didn't want to chart it on the reggae chart. And so they put us on the #8 of the Billboard Heat Seekers chart, which actually is it represents a bigger scope of music and much bigger set of sales. So I was kind of happy that they did that in a certain way. But yeah, I got #8 on that record, and then #1 with Shanty. And then Perfect Gitamani, who's the CEO of Gitamani Records, and that's kind of the parent company-ish to Chalice Row. He got #1 on the reggae charts this year as well with his record, Live My Life Again.
So do people submit music to these billboards, or do they get picked up?
Billboard is a sales chart.
Okay.
Yeah, Billboard's a sales chart. So for those weeks that we charted to where we were selling records, it took a year to build up the promo for Chalice Road Dig a Hole to get up there, and then we just did mad promo for Smoker's Music, and when we put that thing out and got a good week of sales and got up on the chart that way.
So do you perform any often, or?
Not for a while. Not for a while. Me and Shanty did some shows last summer. We did some shows in Germany. Before that, we were doing local U.S. tours with Perfect. And I'd be Perfect's DJ, and Shanty would go out and do an opening set. Nowadays, sometimes I sing harmony with Shanty when he does shows, and then for other bigger shows I'll go do front of house and just go and do sound.
So tell me about some of your favorite vacations.
Vacations?
Yeah. Were you actually like based on music though, like road trips or places?
I've been lucky enough to get paid for most of my vacations.
Hell yeah.
All of my stamps all represent vacations. Yeah, all the stamps in the passport, everywhere I've been outside of the U.S. has all really been for work. So I haven't really. I mean, Belize was a good vacation, I guess. Belize was a place I haven't worked yet that I went to. Belize was fun.
So how did you get to the status where you were able to generate an income for your labor?
Very carefully.
Well, I mean, did you have to go to school to do this?
Yeah, I went to school for a little while. I had probably about a year and a half of school, of college. I took all around of everything from guitar class to keyboard class to a rhythm class to a music business class to a studio class to a theory class to everything class. I've been playing in bands before college. Been playing music and doing recordings even from before college, but didn't know the language, didn't know the vocabulary of how to be able to communicate with musicians. To say this is an E chord and this isn't just the 5th fret. So going to school taught me a lot of vocabulary, and then there was a certain point where I actually had a teacher encourage me not to do school anymore. I had a theory teacher who graded your homework by playing it every morning on the saxophone. He would give us an assignment of writing. We'd go home and write the thing, and then he'd play it in the morning on the sax, and if it sounded good, it passed. If it didn't, then it wasn't. You had to go back to the drawing board. And he didn't mention your name. He wouldn't look at you or anything. But one day when he was playing my homework, he looked straight at me and said, "Some people don't need any of this stuff." Some people are, good with just learning the basics and then going off with their own thing, because once you get stuck in a box of rules, sometimes depending on the kind of brain you have, the kind of way that you process things, you don't want to break rules anymore. Once you learn them, and you want to stay inside of a box. He may have seen that kind of thing in me and stopped me from getting in the box before it happened. So where I know the walls of the box, but I never jumped in it. So.
Would you say you're grateful for that?
Absolutely. I'm glad I didn't finish. I'm really glad. And Cliff, if you're out there, thank you.
Okay, right on. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Man, thank you.
And any shout outs that you want to give to anybody before we get up out of here?
I love my mama very, very much. Thank you, mama. Professional shout outs. Chalice Row every time. Big up Pharaoh. Big up
Judgment Yard.
Big up Death Star Studio. Big up Sizzler Kalungi. Judgment Yard. Big up Perfect Gitamani and Gitamani Records. Big up Anthony B. and Born Fire. Big up Gilly Priest at Trainline Records. Big up Walshy Fire of Major Lazer. Big up everyone for Big Up. Yeah.
Right on.